Hello, my name is Eric the AV Guy, and I'd like to talk to you about aiming video projectors. Video projectors are essentially fancy lights, so therefore they play by a lot of the same rules. Just like if you have a light closer to a surface, you're going to have a smaller light projection. The farther away from the surface, the larger your light projection. So the greater the distance, the greater the projection. That said, keep in mind that most projectors are traditionally set up to be on a tabletop aiming up at a screen. The intention here is for the projector to be roughly level with the bottom of the screen in that case, and it will shoot up towards the top. The greater the distance from the screen, the larger the projection. As you move the screen closer, the image gets smaller, and farther, the image gets larger. As you can see here, we're moving the screen within the shape of that projection. Now, typically when we install a projector, because of that shape that is coming out of the projector, we have to install the projector upside down on the ceiling because we don't want it on the floor, we don't want it on a table. We want to be able to utilize the room for what it is and have that projector permanently installed up top. And so in order to do that and have the image come out right, we have to invert that projector and hang it upside down. Now, most of these projectors have a menu option to let it know that the orientation is installed on a ceiling, so therefore it will invert the image. And if this is done correctly and all your measurements are right, then you will be able to fill that screen perfectly, and it's up and out of the way so nobody will touch it, and everything will be perfect every single time you turn on that projector in an ideal world. However, if your hardware is too short or your projector pole that you're hanging it from is too short and you have to angle that projector down, you are not going to get a square image. Similarly, if it's too long and the projector is too low relative to the top of the screen and you have to angle that projector up, you are not going to be having a square image. It is going to be wider where that lens is farther from the screen than it's supposed to be, and narrower where the lens is closer than it's supposed to be. So therefore, that's going to create an issue. Same thing happens when you're not centered on the screen and you have to twist the projector to the left or the right. You're going to have a larger projection wherever the lens is farther from the screen than it should be. Now, there are sometimes some digital corrections for that, like keystone and blanking and things of that nature, and that could be fine for temporary setups, like so for production needs and so on. That'll, get you all set and good for the show so you can move on and get paid. But when you're installing a projector, you really don't want to have to utilize any of those digital corrections there, because what those are doing is literally cutting away those pixels. You're sacrificing those pixels. You're basically taking a blade to that projection and cutting it where you want it to fit and throwing away all that resolution that's there. So you really want to maintain everything that's in the projector. That said, a lot of these projectors have what's called lens shift. Now, lens shift can be very useful and really help you out if you're not exactly centered from left to right or on that screen, or in some cases even up and down. So the lens shift is great because it's not using any digital corrections. It's actually shifting, physically shifting the lens left, right, up, and down in order to shift the light. Now, there may be some minor sacrifices to, the focus of that, but for the most part, your geometry is maintained correctly with lens shift. So lens shift is really quite a great thing, but we still try not to rely on it too much. So those are the basic things to keep in mind when you're aiming a video projector. Stick around, I've got a video coming right up with where we actually aim a real projector on a job site, so you can go ahead and see what that process is like. I have edited it down just so that you don't have to stick around and watch a whole half hour of me going up and down a ladder, but I hope you are able to watch it, and I really appreciate your attention, and we'll keep making these videos for you. Thanks. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and aim this projector. As you can see, it is quite crooked. I'm not fitting the screen. You can see also I'm very blurry in this lower corner here. As much as it's in focus in the center, we're also very blurry over here. That would really suggest that we're just not straight on whatsoever. So I need to level out the left and right to make sure that we are flat with the screen. So according to my level, we're looking pretty good, almost perfect. Just need to crank up that left side just a little bit. That is good. Now, we can see that at the top, we are looking pretty level. I'm just gonna step down a little bit off of my ladder just to look at it straight on. Let me try and zoom in a bit and get that really right up to the top there. So this is where I am going to cheat a little bit by using the lens shift. I want to push that right up to the top of the screen. That looks pretty good with the top of the screen, but I've got a few other issues. Big issue I see is that our picture is going in towards the top right there and out towards the bottom. So that is not a perfectly plumb picture. However, along the bottom here is looking pretty good. And again, we're going in towards the top, out towards the bottom. So when we see it wider on the bottom, that means that our projector is not aiming straight at the screen. That means that we are tilted downward some. That would lead me to believe that my projector is not straight from front to back. Now I'm going to check that with my level, and sure enough, this projector is leaning forward. That being said, we're going to want to make some adjustments for that. Now, I could be using open-end wrenches on this. I'm sure the ratcheting part of this tool is annoying to listen to on this recording. However, it does help when you pick a direction on the ratchet for you to not have to think about whether or not you're tightening or loosening. You pick the right direction and it's just going to do what it do. So that's a good thing, because sometimes when you're swapping from, having the orientation of your bolt on the left of the unit and then the bolt on the right, especially when you're reaching around to the other side, it can throw you off a little bit as far as which direction you're supposed to be moving these bolts. Now I've gone ahead and leveled the projector from front to back. According to my level, we're still pretty darn good on that. And then I want to double check my left to right. That looks pretty solid as well. Earlier I used my lens shift to push up towards the top of the screen, and now I'm going to have to reverse that because I ended up picking up the front of the projector a little bit, so that ended up raising the image. There are lots of adjustments on these kinds of projectors. I could just fill the screen and then digitally reduce certain corners to make it fit. We could do that. However, doing that is sacrificing pixels. I only have 1920 pixels from left to right and 1080 pixels from top to bottom. I don't really want to sacrifice any of those pixels by cutting the picture. That's why we want to actually aim this correctly with the lenses that we have. It looks like I'm closer to the top of the screen there than I am over here on the right. We may need to play with twisting this projector a little bit. I have not tightened that particular bolt on this mount yet, so I should be able to do that fairly easily. There we go. I've just moved it over to the left. I'm gonna do that a little bit more. Maybe overcompensate a little and see what's going on there. So now we can see that I really overshot that. So as I twisted the projector over to the left, you can now see how I'm overshooting the black bottom on this side, and yet it's picked up on this side. Because as I said, if that side of the lens is further from the screen, it's going to project a bigger image over here. So I need to twist this back. It gets a little tricky on projectors that have lens shift, because on this particular projector, it is a manual lens shift. So therefore I cannot just hit the center my lens button. So I don't really know where the center of the lens is. Some projectors you can center the lens and it will shift it all the way left, all the way right, and come back and find the middle for you so that you can start from a neutral spot. Unfortunately, we do not have that feature on this particular projector. Still have the image cutting in a little bit up at the top there. This is very strange, because down here at the bottom we are looking pretty darn good. I think I may want to pick up the front of this projector a little bit more, honestly. Be very gentle on these nuts, just a touch. Okay. And my projector is now leaning up just a touch. And that's not typically what we're going for. We typically want it to be perfectly level. But at the end of the day, how it looks on the screen is really what matters. That's the only thing anybody cares about. It appears that my image is squeezed in on the bottom there and on the top, which would mean I may need to twist this projector just a touch more to the right. So now that I've done that, I'm going to shift back with my lens shift. And it appears I may have gone a little too far. So let me come back a bit with the twisting and then shift over to the right again. And let me check up close what it looks like on all my borders. I almost feel like I may need to level the projector a little bit better. Because again, just because my projector seemed level from the bubble, we really need to judge it by how it looks on the screen. Our level just gets us close. I want to pick up the right and or drop the left. I really just want to make sure that the shape of this projection is on point. So our right side looks pretty good. I am touching down here and there. I'm within my borders here. I'm just a bit short right here for some reason. Let me try twisting it over to the right just a touch again. See what that does to that bottom right corner. Might have been a little too much. Yep, that was definitely too much, because now I'm overshooting the bottom right corner and I'm undershooting the bottom left. So as you can see, tiny, tiny little movements are making a very, very big difference when we start nitpicking these little things, these little details. Now that the bracket is fully adjusted, now I'm going to focus a little bit on the actual lens. So again, we have a few different adjustments on the lens. We've got our lens shift, and we have our zoom and focus. So it is okay to overshoot the black edges just a touch. They are there as somewhat of a buffer. You just don't want to overshoot it too much. You don't want it to really be obnoxiously noticeable, but it is okay. We are pretty well focused in all the corners. That is going to be a little bit of a compromise. If you get your upper corners perfectly focused, I can almost guarantee you the bottom ones will be a little bit blurry. So we do want to make sure that our corners are focused within reason. You don't want to make anybody feel like they need to go get an eye exam. All right. Now let me change what I have on the screen. Maybe put something with a little bit more text. This screen is not perfectly flat, so we are going to see certain areas like so. We've got a little tiny bit of blurriness right here. Right here, this corner is a little bit problematic. However, all the way here on the side, we're solid. Up top, we're pretty darn good. All my text right here is very sharp. I could see the whole menu up at the top is also nice and sharp. So the only spot that's a little questionable is right here. That's a little questionable. And that's what will happen when you don't have a perfectly flat screen. I've got a little bit of blurriness right here as well. That's as far as we're going today. Thank you for watching, and we'll try to keep making some more videos for you.